today's episode, we have cardboard consensus. That's where I will say a statement and we will react on a scale of 1 to 5 if we agree or disagree with that particular statement. It's the best way for us all to debate and get our honest thoughts out before someone else persuades us. In this episode, you have me, Scott, we have Chris, Phil, and Ty. That order, left to right, top to bottom. Good to see you guys. How are you?
What's up?
Nice. I gotta say, Scott, I'm thrilled to be up top. I think this is the first time this filming today is our first time where I'm not in the bottom row. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel a little special today. I'm not gonna lie.
Based off like if I like your comment, just downgrade you. That's what you like, buddy. Hey, Phil.
I'm trying to move you back.
There we go. There we go. Well, good. We're glad you're here, Chris. We're glad you're here. I will always like when you're on top. All right, let's get started. First statement. For post 2019 cards, only first Bowman will carry major value. The keyword is major. I want to emphasize that, major value. So for post 2019 cards, only first Bowman will carry major value. When I say first Bowman, that includes first Bowman autographs more so than the non-autographs. Okay.
Okay.
3.
All right, so sorry, just one clarification. This is literally all cards, all other cards. This is
of that specific player.
Like
it's basically saying rookie cards aren't going to be as valuable. Like basically what this is. This was a hot take from a viewer I had. So
okay.
And 5 agrees, 1 disagrees.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go. I said 4, and I'll say mine because I'm like way outside what you guys are thinking. They're doing some good stuff right now that's changing it. First thing is people like rookie cards, so because of that, they're always going to be there. There's just a lot of them. But the card that didn't make this a 5 was the rookie patch, the debut patch. Like that card could elevate rookie cards still. So that's why it wasn't a 5. Okay, Chris, you were the next closest to me. You were 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get the thinking because there is only one set with a first Bowman Chrome auto, and there are 70 sets with each player's rookie cards, and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of rookie cards. But I can't say it's the only one. I do think there are a couple rookies that will sort of rise above the massive pile of rookie cards that gets printed. I think the Topps Black Parallel is extremely safe. I waver on the Topps Chrome Gold Refractor. It's got history. It's gold. It looks great. It's usually at a 50 or steadily at a 50 for the last like at least decade. But there's just too many of those now too, with all the different Topps Chrome sets. I think I did the numbers on this. Michael Harris had like 20,000 Topps Chrome Gold Refractors. Oh, sorry, 2,000. Sorry, 1 more 0. Had 2,000 Topps Chrome Gold Refractor rookies. But yeah, that Topps Black and the MLB Patch Auto. I think those 2 rookie cards are going to be safe. Like those are okay. I think they will remain relevant, amidst all the others.
Okay, what do you think, Phil?
Yeah, well, of all of us, I'm probably, Scott too, probably like the biggest advocates. I know Scott doesn't love Bowman Chrome per se. He doesn't like the situation that we're all in, but I think he's aligned with me on being understanding of like, well, at least it's just one set. At least they haven't completely bastardized the set in the way that they've done it with Topps Chrome. You can make the argument that they've still done it with Bowman. They've added mega boxes. They've added Sapphire. They've added a bunch of other stuff. Too, in a lot of cases, Draft and Bowman Baseball and Bowman Chrome. But there's still only one set with the first auto. It's still the player's first desirable licensed card, which is important. It's important in Pokemon with like the first edition and stuff like that with Charizard, or even if it's not the first edition set, but the 1999 vintage base set from WotC, still considered like a rookie card. First card matters. But maybe the right way, and I gave this a 2 because I'm thinking like, well, maybe no cards post 2019 will hold their value. So maybe that's a different way of looking at it because of the dilution from all of the top stuff and the additional Bowman stuff that they've added. Maybe just nobody's investable from 2019 and later. Maybe that's the answer here. But I will say, I'll turn that again and say that if we were to have some sort of like a composite index, and maybe Market Movers tracks this, maybe Card Ladder tracks this, I'm not sure, that looked at Topps Dynasty versus the Bowman Chrome Auto, and compared similar players, I think in calendar year 2024, Dynasty outperformed Bowman Chrome Autos. I think in 2023, based on what I've looked at, again, Bowman Chrome Autos lost to Dynasty. I think in 2025, Bowman Chrome Autos will lose to Dynasty again. So, I mean, that pokes holes in the statement right there.
That may be artificial movement from a specific market mover who I won't say.
Okay.
Ty made a great video on it about how he believes in it. So, and he made some great points, and I think that persuaded. I was just joking. I think he just educated. So, keep going.
Yeah, so a lot of people are saying like the patch won't catch. Just baseball collectors aren't really into materials for various reasons. Just not a whole lot of demand. It's being forced upon us. But the data shows that there is slow and steady growth with Topps Dynasty, and that's the growth that you want because it's not going to collapse in your face like Project 2020 did. So this is the best type of growth for Dynasty. And if they gradually increase the number of cards in Dynasty of each player for their rookie cards, then what are we going to go from 140 to 200? Compare that to any other set. That's still nothing. And that's still needed to satiate the demand and saturate the marketplace so people can find these things and collect them and also want and desire them too. All right, go Teapot.
No, before Ty goes, can I show one thing real quick? I'm going to say yes. And Ty, this is going to support what you're probably going to say. But this is kind of to back Phil up real fast. Aaron Judge is a good example of Dynasty moving. His out of 5 Dynasty with a nice patch just sold for $15,000. His gold Bowman Chrome autograph out of 50 BGS 9.5 just sold for $17.5 thousand. So that's closed the gap a ton. Raw out of 10 went for about 9.5 thousand earlier this month, another 9,000. So it's already happening. Ty, what are you thinking?
I think the Bowman Chrome autos are, I mean, without a question, the ones that have the most predictability long term, the most stability. It's already established. They're not going anywhere. But I do think there's other cards that are here to stay. I mean, we just saw Ellie De La Cruz's Topps Chrome rookie auto Superfractor sell for $115,000. So there's other cards that are going to have big value. Topps Chrome autos will have big value. Topps Chrome rookie cards will have the gold refractors, certain parallels. They'll have value. And I do think Dynasty will have value long term. So that's why I gave it a 2. I was probably like French 2-3. Honestly, I was closer to 3 than 1. But there are a lot of cards out there and a lot of rookie cards. So it will be important. And I think it'll just naturally happen that there will be consensus over time. What is considered an established card that retains value. But I don't think that those are the only ones. And because not everybody likes those cards. I mean, I know they're established as like the investable card, but not everybody likes them.
I appreciated Phil saying that while I believe that Bowman Chromes are going to hold more value, that I do prefer rookies, and I still do prefer rookie cards over Bowman Chrome autographs. But I do want to show an example of something intriguing. So here is a black Paul Skeens sold for $658 on auction. We talked about the black having value. His purple Bowman Chrome first sold for $850 an SGC holder. So it's one of those things like we're even like off color Bowman Chrome autographs are crushing some of these black sales. Like even a Mookie Betts BGS 9.5 sold black parallel sold for like $4,500 on My Slabs auction. Granted, it was My Slabs auction, but it still did. And hey, is that Phil? Look at that nice purple Paul down there.
Just came in today. PSA 9.
Wow. Nice. But with Mookie, like his Bowman Chrome autograph blue sells for more than his black parallel now out of 150. So it's just, I think it is separating. Does it mean everything below it's going to have no value? But no, we just always see in the long run, people always go to like the card. That's my concern. We're going to move to the card, and that card's going to be the Bowman Chrome, no matter what we hope. And I think the biggest contender of that is going to be like the RPAs, because those were never prospect autographs. So I could see those being justified in the long run.
Yeah, I don't expect the Topps Black to compete monetarily with those first autos, but of the rookies, I still think that's probably the best non-auto that you're going to find. Yeah, I have a question for you guys though about Dynasty. How concerned are we about Dynasty going forward with the whole CT scanners situation that's out there? Like, does it potentially wreck the product? Do we trust that Topps can figure out a way to package it so that scanners won't be able to see immediately?
Singles are still valuable.
That's
especially the ones that have already come out.
Yeah,
but that's the hard part. Will I be buying some boxes ever? No, but that was predetermined by the price more so than the scanners. But the scanners surely solidified an investment situation for me for sure. So I think it's real. We need to do something, Chris, in my opinion. What do you think, Ty? You're a big Dynasty guy.
Well, Topps Mercury has been thrown up into the spotlight of being CT scanned right now, and it's still selling for over $9,000 a box. So
that is insane.
People are there's different compartments of people, and there are people who break, and there are people who buy into breaks, and there are people who rip personals, and there are people who, buy secondary market, and there's other subgroups. And the people, we're not the group that's ripping Dynasty or even buying into Dynasty breaks. There are other people who are just going to be, tweaking out and have to get into these breaks to do it. And there are other people who are going to do shady things and know what's coming. I'm sure of it. I mean, I feel very confident in that. We've talked about that in the past, but I don't think it's going to impact the secondary market once the cards are out. Once they're onto the market, the CT scanner doesn't impact them at all. So it might taint the breaking ability or the ability to hold the sealed product long term. I don't know. Maybe the theory from some people that this will just encourage the boxes to be ripped open from the get will be true, and they'll be out, and then we can all actually buy or dream of buying the cards once they're actually on the secondary.
My concern, Teapot, is that fewer of the cards hit the secondary market because people just avoid the boxes. Like, how do you buy it? How do you buy a $1,500 box secondary market? What's that?
That would only help the prices of the singles then, because there'd be fewer, lower supply.
I guess that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
My thing is the majority of Topps Dynasty wasn't being opened by individuals anyways, so I don't think it'll matter too much. That is a breaker's dream, Topps Dynasty, because it's so expensive for what you get. And I think that's what's going to be important. I would just say if you're going to do a break with Topps Dynasty, do it in like the first couple of days it's released, and you'll probably be fine because it's not enough time to CT scan it to be fully transparent. Once you wait a few years, that's when I would be scared to do so.
Yeah, the single boxes too. So much risk in buying single boxes of Dynasty for a lot of reasons, even before the CT scanning stuff.
The Topps Dynasty Soccer that came out, I've referenced that product before. That product was selling for $3,000 a box. That's come down to about $1,800 a box. Now it's come way down. But that's an example, I think, of what, Phil, what you were saying is like it came out too hot. And people realized the value wasn't there even over cases of it to try to recoup their funds. So it's come down. It's hard to know whether or not that's impacted by the news of CT scanning or not. How much of that is put pressure versus just people going, oh, I'm kind of tired of getting crushed. This is more like a $1,500 product, not a $3,000 product. So
did any of those messy one-of-ones surface and sell?
Yeah, they sold.
Really?
But I do know one of them sold for a lot of money. I'll look it up real quick. Let's Ty, you're on it.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I know one of the
104,000 on Golden. Yeah, 104,000, 84,000. Those were the two one-of-one sales.
Okay.
The of 5 did 22. So
I mean, those one-of-ones looked awesome. When Top put out the pictures of them, they look great.
We should teach players, if they're going to sign these high-end cards, how not to have streaky autographs. It's like, hey, take your time. This impacts the value. Just explain it to them. Because the one-on-one Messi had his really streaky auto, and it's like, that just stinks a little bit. Doesn't bug you, Ty?
Has to do with the marker sometimes too, maybe.
Too thin.
You'd think they'd have a fresh marker for Messi. But
we saw with Ohtani on his Dynasty rookies, he had the fattest freaking marker ever when he signed.
Yeah, some of his just look like a drawing almost.
Yeah, and they look so weird.
Sometimes the marker runs out too, guys. When they're doing like 15,000 at a time. If they we're
talking about Dynasty $100,000 one-on-ones. I think they can fresh marker.
It's Teapot. The falling price of wax in today's environment is pretty normal with any product, like 3 to 6 months after release, just because there's not a whole lot of demand, because breakers move on to whatever the new hype to release is that their customers want. So so unfortunately the singles demand drops too. So it's not like if you open it, the ROI is going to be so much better now. Like might be actually even less. But
that's when
yeah,
astute breakers like Blaz scoop up the product on a discount, wait 3 years, and then do the quote unquote biggest break in history and get crushed.
Yeah, because there's nothing left in the boxes. Okay, good answers to those questions. Let's do the next statement. Baseball card collecting is better than collecting in any other sport.
But wait, what did you say?
Baseball card collecting is better than collecting in any other sport.
Better than.
We're biased, and I'm completely fine with that. If you disagree, let us know. But let's hear our thoughts. 3, 2, 1, now. I love baseball card collecting. Ty, I'm surprised you're not higher because you made a video how much you love baseball card collectors. Let's hear your thoughts.
I did. I'm squarely. I'm at like a 3.4. But I collect everything. I collect everything. I mean, I literally collect everything, and I enjoy collecting everything. If I had to stop collecting everything else and could only collect baseball, I'd be pretty sad because I like other sports. I like I like non-sports. I like a lot of different things. And I've historically found that they each offer something unique. The reason I've made videos talking about how I like baseball card collecting and how specifically I think baseball card collectors are the smartest. They actually look at performance. They actually look at the numbers. They actually understand the big picture and the whole picture of athletes instead of just focusing on some like highlight dunk they saw on ESPN, or, not actually even understanding the sport or what makes a good player. Baseball card collectors understand what makes a really good player. And we have metrics to back it up too. I mean, that's the other beautiful thing is, just kind of stat and analytic nerd. Like it's all there within baseball. There's more lineage. There's more predictability. There's less hype beast. And but some of that still exists. But yeah, I mean, as I've gotten older in the last few years, baseball has become my favorite sport to watch, to study, to think about. And I'm still learning a lot. I think you guys know a lot more about, things and can rattle it off a lot better than I can, but I'm doing my best to catch up. But I do like other things too. I just really enjoy sports in general and competitive athletics.
Cool. Okay, Phil, you were the next closest at 4, I think, right?
Yeah, I give a 4 because the sport of hockey is a pretty good one to collect from what I hear. And you're dealing with Upper Deck instead of Fanatics. So if you want to buy product to open it, you don't have to deal with all the excessive bounties and marketing gimmicks that are forcing the prices of product up and all of the crazy monopolistic stuff that they do to ensure that you're paying as much as you possibly could for a product, whether it's the hobby shop, a collector, buying direct, or, breakers, I guess. But hockey, the community is a little bit smaller. It's very North American and Canadian based. When you're selling cards, you're likely to sell to other collectors, which is one of the benefits of baseball. With baseball, you're selling to people that often watch the sport. With football, obviously, it's the most popular sport in this country. But a lot of people aren't really in it for the passion of the sport, from what I've noticed. And that especially stood out to me when I was selling basketball cards. A lot of people I felt like wouldn't even know what team John Morant played for. They wouldn't watch the game. Baseball's cool. You get to take advantage of Fanatics' new innovations around certain products that they're making. Topps was lazy at times and cheap in creating different parallels or different interesting products, and Fanatics is giving us a bit more than that. With soccer, though, you got licenses split up across Topps and Panini. I think like UEFA is Topps Chrome, and then like EPL, English Premier League, is Panini. So you get to take advantage of a little bit of competition there. Yeah. Which benefits like the creativity and the final product. Maybe, I mean, theoretically quality control, although I don't know if it's helping much. But yeah, baseball's pretty good. Give it a 4. Happy to be here and almost exclusively collecting baseball at this point.
Soccer is interesting. I don't want to pretend I know anything about soccer structure. And it's not that I hate soccer. It's never been that. It's just there's too many other things that I need to know. I don't want to forget stuff. Like your brain is an iceberg. You're going to have so many penguins on your iceberg, and everything you add is a new penguin, and that knocks off a different penguin. So my iceberg is full of baseball penguins, and I don't want to push that off for other sports. And that's an example of like with soccer. It's pretty confusing. There's different leagues, and I don't like people get demoted and promoted, don't they? Like stuff like that, which is very intriguing, helps promote competition. But there's a lot to keep track of with baseball. I mean,
soccer has a ton of things like working for it in terms of its global reach and popularity. I also believe that the announcement that PSA is going to be opening a grading facility in Europe is huge news potentially for the soccer card community, but it has a ton of things working against it. Most notably that it has almost no statistics of note. There's a website that's called Transfer Market that basically takes the performance of players plus their market demand and tells you what they think the player is worth, like in a transfer portal, like to sign with basically with a club. So it's sort of like WAR, only in the sense that you can kind of stack and rank players' value with a single metric to sort of say how good is how demanded or sought after is this player.
But they say demanded because it drives revenue because they're popular, less because they're
because they're popular, or because they're just that good. But when it comes to like defensemen and even midfielders and goalies and everybody, like its goals are nothing when it comes to soccer card value for the most part, outside of the absolute most elite at their respective positions. But more than anything, it's incredibly club driven and like national team driven. And when you have these guys who bounce from Barcelona to PSG to Inter Miami, you know, Messi's like, he's moved less than other people have in their careers. That creates a really squirrely thing because people are like Chelsea fans or Man U fans or whatever before they are fans of a specific player. And that makes it dicey. And then you have a player like Erling Haaland, who's one of the probably, you know, either the top or one of the top 5 players in the world right now. And his team doesn't even make Norway, doesn't even make the World Cup or even like the Euros. Like they just suck. So he like doesn't get to play on the international scene on the biggest stage. So there's a whole bunch of things that work against it that they need to sort of sort out within that world to make it, I don't know, to like stratify players more, because it tends to just be like Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, Haaland, and nobody seems to care about anybody else except for recently this young kid, Lamine Yamal, who's insane. But we'll start a soccer card podcast some other time.
You just knocked 5 penguins off my iceberg. Thanks a lot. I forgot who won the World Series in 1960. Just kidding. All right, Chris, what do you think? You put a 5 up.
I put a 5 up. I'm thinking that I mean, I just don't know that much about other sports outside of like 80s hockey cards. I don't follow other sport cards at this point at all. But I do think, and I could be wrong, so if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me immediately. But maybe baseball should be a 4 because it's confusing. It's extremely confusing to someone who's just coming into the hobby, I would think. And I also, are baseball cards the only sport card where a player's rookie card isn't their first card?
Well, no. Now Topps is making Bowman firsts for basketball and football and other sports.
They're bastardizing.
Is that what like Bowman University is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But like no one selects those.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was at
there are
Cards
also
HQ,
XRC cards. There are XRCs in football, and they're popular, but they're not like it's not like a Bowman first.
Like LeBron has an XRC, couple XRC rookies, and they don't like some of them go for a lot, but
like what are they? What like his high school team? Like what are they?
No, it's a
so like it's a redemption. So like in select football, you'll draw this redemption that's for an XRC, and it'll say number 3 quarterback, and then that's the card you can redeem. Like basically the next year, like I don't know if it's right after the draft, but you can basically get those cards once the draft is completed. So, and they're pretty cool looking usually. But
okay. Yeah. But it sounds like that comes out the same year as their rookie cards, right? It just might come out first.
Right. Yeah, you never have this like 3 or 8 year runway.
They come out the year before, Chris. Redemption. But you receive the card the same year, but it's technically from the previous year's a redemption.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, when I was at Cards HQ, I introduced Teapot to a buddy of mine to Teapot, and they were talking about cards. And like my buddy was saying, like, oh, so if I want, you know, like he's a Red Sox fan, so he brought up Devers, and he's like, hey, so if I wanted a Devers rookie card, like, what year is it? And I'm like, well, do you want his rookie card or do you want his first card? And I could just see like, you know, his eyes just, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, why, how is it not the first card? So, I mean, in that regard, I could see baseball being extremely confusing. So maybe it should just be a 4, but for me, it's a 5.
Thank you. I said 5 too. I used to collect only basketball cards until 2016. I don't know if you guys knew that. That's all I ever collected. I did not like baseball. I actually didn't like baseball at all. I thought it was boring. But then I fell in love with the sport and the history and everything. And I fully converted to baseball, and it was the best move because I feel like there's so much diversity in baseball card collecting, which I like. Where in other sports, it's everybody's collecting the same thing, but there's so much diversity. And that comes almost solely from the history of baseball being so long and that people go after so many things. And baseball is a sport. Yes, we know like pre-integration, those players maybe had lesser competition, but like everybody, like you could argue Mantle and Mays would be just as dominant today as they were back then. And that's like the only sport you can do that, which is great. It creates some really fun stuff there. But also there's just so many random collectors out there. Like Chris and Jeff are all after short prints. And, I'm all after Billy Butler, Mookie Betts. There's just so much. And that could just be because by far, worldwide baseball cards are still the most popular. I know that's hard to believe. You could say, well, how do you know that? I'm looking at Google Trends, and that may not be the best way to do it. But like baseball cards are by far more searched and looked up than football and basketball. To give you an example, the Blue Lines baseball cards, and this is like 2021, right? Here's baseball's peak, but like we're still, red is basketball. Football is the yellow one. It's actually catching up to baseball more than basketball cards. But because there's so much attention there, it makes it more fun because other cards that may not be as big have value versus football with like defensive players. If you like defensive players, a lot of times only a few have value, right? We're seeing that change a little bit with 90s cards of like the one-of-ones and the rare stuff, but I appreciate that about baseball. And that's one thing I love about baseball is there's vintage collectors who have some amazing cards. There's modern collectors that have amazing cards, ultra modern collectors. And then it's just, I think it's beautiful. So
yeah, there's so many little niches in this hobby. Like there's an entire like Ginter world that exists on Instagram, all these Ginter collectors, and so many like guys that just get the one-of-ones. They want like minis, they want mini woods. I mean, Ginter Wood Minis has like 300 of just these one-of-one little wood cards that are fantastic. And there's like a good 20 or 30 Ginter accounts out there just interacting with all their particular cards they go after every year. And stuff like that is fascinating. I think that's really cool.
Stadium Club, of course, with you, Chris. There's probably a lot of heritage groups out there, probably at least one on Facebook. I don't think there's a Panini Mosaic basketball card collecting club that would share the same collection or the same passion and affinity for those cards. Although they are good looking, I guess. And I know Teapot likes those.
Yeah, it's true that in baseball, there's a lot stronger opinions in many cases. There's very strong opinions about what should or shouldn't exist, what is or isn't good. There's like more visceral reactions to things, way more so than football, which is still a very like young collecting space. I would say still somewhat, I don't know if immature is the right word, but just younger and not as developed of an overall hobby in the football card space of like what should or shouldn't be good. And that baseball's on the other end. It's just very strong opinions. People always posting, what they think. This is the thing. This isn't the thing. This is the true rookie. This isn't, a lot of that conversation. And then basketball's somewhere in between where like there's certain pretty passionate collectors, but that can be a double-edged sword. It can feel a little bit like, I don't know, a little less inclusive or something. Like if you like more niche stuff and people just are like constantly crapping on the stuff that you like all over their Instagram stories, it's, that's not a great feeling. So
on that side, I've noticed a lot of the more niche stuff has really caught on over the last few years. The short prints are an example, right? Someone might prefer it super short print where there's 10 or 15 copies over a rookie gold, and people are probably shamed for paying the same for that short print. And now those short prints are worth a crap ton. All the rookie golds are worth the same. So like that's like about baseball too. If you can do your research and find something you think is cool, you can get rewarded. And I don't know if that happens in other sports. I don't know well enough. The other thing I admire about baseball is the greatest of all time conversation, and championships aren't quite as important. And it makes it more fun because you don't have to be 10 championships to have value. Look at Barry Bonds, look at Ted Williams, look at all these players who don't have World Series. There's a ton. Ernie Banks never even made the playoffs in his career. But that's another thing I like about baseball cards is there's a little bit more rationality knowing it's so random at times. Like Bryce Harper doesn't have a World Series. Aaron Judge doesn't have a World Series. All these big players, but we still collect them. And that doesn't really happen as much, in my opinion, in other sports.
Yeah, I mean the sports are set up differently. So like, I'd want my football quarterback to have a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, and that's
those
I
games
understand.
matter. Yeah, and
I think it allows baseball to have like more diversity, which I like.
Yeah, you're right. So Chris had brought up something earlier about how Bowman and Rafael Devers actually has 3 years of meaningful cards because he's got the 2014 Bowman draft first, then his first Bowman auto comes in 2015, then his rookie is in 2018. I actually think that it's somewhat of a benefit to have the Bowman cards come out early because at least you can buy a card when he's most exciting, which could be rookie year or it could be before that. So baseball allows true prospecting to happen. You can't buy the most investable cards of like Wemby when he's in high school or college or whatever. And the same goes for NFL players. And with a release schedule, sometimes you have to wait till the season's over to buy like the Prism, the Optic rookie cards, and some of the cool parallels of those cards. So what this has allowed is it's set up an ecosystem where there's an entire market around baseball prospecting, those that just do Bowman Chrome autographs. So this is all around a sport that is slowly dying in baseball, and you're still able to have people that just specialize in players that aren't even in the professional league yet. Minor league baseball. That's still professional ball, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we get you. You're not in the highest level, but
right.
Hey, I love baseball cards. I still like basketball cards. It's just I like John Stockton a lot. My dad played with John Stockton in college, and so I like him. And it's just, I don't know, it feels less inclusive in regards to like if you like a more niche player where people respect your collection. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Ty, but it can be a challenge.
Yeah, basketball, I think like Phil was saying with quarterbacks, I think basketball, like if you don't win a title, like if Stockton, if they'd beaten the Bulls one of those 2 years, I assume all of his cards would be at least what percentage more valuable do you think?
I would say Michael Jordan's legacy would have been more negatively impacted by losing to Stockton than Stockton's would have been helped by winning.
Interesting.
Knowing that they faced each other. Stockton is beloved by Utah Jazz fans and by short white dudes all over the world who dreamed of making it in the NBA like me. And he, I don't know that winning would, I don't know. I mean, people look at Chris Paul today, who just couldn't ever win a championship, and they dock him for that quite a bit because Stockton has 2 completely unbreakable records. I don't know if the championship would have really moved the needle or not. I don't know.
It's interesting case by case when you look at like Tim Duncan, he won a lot and he's still not collected. So it's like case by case. Who knows? Maybe Tatum didn't win the MVP. Maybe that won't end up actually helping his. Well, he's still young, so who the hell knows what's going to happen to him? Luka needs to win one. I think certain guys, it's like critical. I believe maybe Karl Malone. Maybe that would have been more helpful for his values. I don't know. With the
I think Giannis, if Giannis hadn't won a championship already, and not only won a championship but been the MVP and had heroics and dropped 50 points in the clinch, in the game, in the series winner, that his cards would have come down significantly more than they have by now, even though he's still widely considered, one of the top 3 or 4 players in the NBA, and has a lot of hardware to go with it. I think he would have come down a lot more. But so big thank you to Kevin Durant's big toe for being on the 3-point line. And
do you guys think if the Mariners had won a title in the late 90s, would Griffey cards be even more collected than they are now?
Not by more than 5 to 15%.
Yeah.
I think not.
I think it could help legacy a tiny bit, but that's why I like baseball though. Like Griffey, Bonds, some of like the biggest names in the history of the sport. Ted Williams, literally, in my opinion, like the best pure hitter in Major League Baseball history. It's tough, but they still get collected, which kind of gives you hope. If like a random guy you care about, let's say the Phillies never win a World Series, it's still nice to know like Bryce Harper's still going to have collectability.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Same with Bonds. He wins maybe 5% bump. Griffey still had a playoff moment. We talked about moments in the last episode.
Yeah, he did. It's just crazy. That thing about baseball, like Bonds didn't get a ring, and it was absolutely not his fault. Like he did everything he could, and the bullpen just like shit away Game 6, and it totally out of his hands. Like there's nothing he could do about it. And that doesn't happen in basketball. I feel like if the Bulls lose, it's probably because Jordan missed a shot. Whereas Bonds was just he had to sit there and watch his team melt down around him.
Can we talk about Bonds real quick? We talked about playoff performance before, right? So here's Bonds' playoff performance. Before age 35, he was not good.
Mm-mm.
He had 1 home run in 20 games, 30 games. He was really bad, right? We are lucky there wasn't a world with Twitter at that time, dude. It would have been insane. But it's amazing how a couple good postseasons can definitely change the narrative. Talked about Judge last episode too. It can happen even in later years. We see it with Stanton as well, but just interesting. If you didn't have these years, I wonder if Bonds would be impacted a little bit potentially, but just intriguing. All right, my final statement of this episode. We have seen the bottom of Mike Trout's fall from hobby grace. Mike Trout was what Ohtani is now, and now Mike Trout is not where Ohtani is now. We've seen a pretty big fall. So have we seen, is he at the bottom? Is he at the floor? Or do we think there's more? If you think he's at the bottom, it's a 5. If you think there's more, it's a 1. Okay. Make sense? Any questions? We good?
If you think he's at the bottom, so if he's going to fall more, it's a 1.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. This is the cowardly response to do 3, but I really don't know. Okay, we'll start with you, Chris. 1.
Yeah, I think he's got further to go. I think he definitely, I mean, in my opinion, he's got further to fall because the team isn't going to be good. They're just not going to be good. So we're not going to see him play October baseball for at least the next 2 years. And maybe he can stay healthy. I know he said he's willing to come out of center field. He just wants to be on the field, and that's great. But then that means we're looking at a 33-year-old left field /DH. I don't know. I think people will be excited if he can stay on the field and play 120 plus games, hit 35 home runs. But there's nothing inherently collectible about a corner outfielder /DH that can do that. So I think the only way we see the slow decline stop is if he gets traded to someone else. And the Angels would have to eat $280 million to make that trade happen. I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Okay. Ty, you were 2.
Yeah, I think he's still got more. I think he's got more room to go. I just hear people less and less. I feel like I could count on one hand the number of times I've heard anybody at a card show or at Cards HQ this year say Mike Trout's name. Since he got injured, it's just radio silence. They had a few of his PSA 10, Topps update cards on the shelf that just sat there. And now that card finally came down, is now down to $750. But it's sat stagnant for a while. What I know is there's a lot of people out there with a lot of money into Trout cards. I know his legacy in many ways is already established and set in stone, but for the immediate future, the next few years, especially if he can't play, especially if he stays with the Angels, I think he's going to come down at least another 20% from where he is now. So that's kind of my position. His Bowman draft auto BGS 9.5. I'm just looking at that, sold in March for $17K. Most recently sold for 13.5. Actually sold for 12.5 in September. The blue, yeah. BGS 9.5. So I mean that could keep coming down too. I don't know. We'll see.
I was 3, so I'll go next, and I'll let you be number 4, Phil. But I said 3. I think we may be close, and it's so hard to call the bottom on anything because of what you guys just said, but we may be close in some cards, in my opinion. I think the Bowman Chrome is a good example. He's almost at the price of other players like Judge and Soto, and he's getting to that point. If you know what I mean, he still could drop another 20%, like you said, yes, but these prices are relatively obtainable compared to where they were. BGS 9.5 refractor with a good auto, $6,000, right? 13.5 for a blue. And he has no parallels, by the way, none. He has the blue, the gold, the orange, the red, and the X-Fractor. That's basically it. The X-Fractor's at 7. And then a base just sold, it's not here, for about 3,000 even today. And so like I can't see the base going lower than 2,500. Could you guys? I just don't see it for like what that card was. So I do think his rookie stuff, like his high pop PSA 10 Topps update card, that card could keep dropping. It probably will. So I think it depends on the card. That's why I said 3. I think some is low, and I think it's safer. And then other stuff, I think there's a lot of room to drop. So, okay, Phil, you're 4.
Yeah, I've been on the train of Trout has more room to fall in the short term for the last like 2.5 years probably. But more or less aligned with Scott here. I'm not predicting a bottom, but I think broadly speaking, we're really close to a bottom with Trout. For the last year or so, if anybody approached me saying that they were interested in buying Mike Trout and how much should I pay and is it a good buy, I would say as long as you're expecting him to do nothing else for the rest of his career, are you fine with his accomplishments to date? Because if so, I think that's sort of your mindset that you need to have if you're buying Trout now. Fortunately, though, Trout's not a guy that needs to establish more to make it. He's already made it, in my opinion. 3 MVPs, generational guy of the 2010s, prolific WAR. In baseball, sorry guys, but postseason success, it just doesn't really matter. So the rhetoric that you see in social media with Trout, oh, he's nothing until he wins one. Those people don't collect baseball cards, or they're just haters, or they just missed out on the Mike Trout boat of 5-6 years ago. I'm looking at the card ladder player index for Mike Trout. Last year, down 31%. Last 2 years, down 56%. One of my good friends, Scotty B. Cards, made a video recently where he talked about card movements over the last 12 months or over the last year, calendar year. And he said that a lot of guys actually went up in value, like Justin Verlander. So a lot of the guys that debuted well before the ultra-modern era starting, a lot of those guys did pretty well, even if they didn't have the best seasons or good seasons at all. Kershaw is another guy that's up. So I think people are moving away from prospecting. I made a kind of a coy remark about maybe anybody who's debuted after like 2019 or 2019 later, this isn't investable anymore because there's just too much dilution. Some of that I actually meant. To look at a guy like Bryce Harper, where his cards, it seems like, are not even correlated with his performance. They just only go up, or they stay flat, or they go down just a tiny bit after the hype fades on whatever he did in the most recent September or October. But I think a lot of that has to do with supply of cards, supply of desirable cards in Harper's case, and that's in Trout's favor as well. So yeah, there's going to be certain cards that continue to fall, maybe even some high-end cards that fall because the Bowman Chrome auto multipliers are out of whack or whatever. But broadly speaking, I think we're pretty close to a floor on Mike Trout. And I think right now baked in is nothing for him to accomplish for the rest of his career. I think his cards right now are priced as if he won't do anything for the rest of his career because, again, he has made it and he was the generational guy of the 2010s.
Okay, Phil. We're on board. Thanks for the shout out, by the way. But other than that, guys, I think we're going to wrap this episode up. Let us know in the comments down below. We love to hear your feedback on these 3 points. And if you have, I've asked this before, but I want to legitimately ask this. If you have a statement, like I've been saying to the team, that you want me to say to the team, we'll do a few of those in the future on these episodes. It's kind of like a regular weekly thing. So feel free to include those and call it out that you want us to do that. And we can pick 1 or 2. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.